everyone? So I'm going to do a little quick intro of this guest today. His name is Jeff Mendez, aka Poppy. One of my great friends, mentors, and someone I definitely look up to in life on a lot of levels. So, real quick introduction: he was at Vivint for 13 years, played a major role in the sales leadership, helping grow the revenue from 30 million to $1 billion with a B. Leading control investment by Blackstone, which is a publicly traded company, and successfully transitioning the company from private to public. So as a general partner and founder of a manufactured housing company called MH Investment Group and asset management platform Roops Management Group, Jeff and his team have provided affordable housing to over 50,000 families nationwide, deploying 1.5 billion across 80 communities in 25 states. Jeff is also the co-founder and co-owner of Greenlight Restaurant Group, which invests and helps build exceptional multi-unit franchise concepts such as Cutbop, Pizzeria, 712, Station 22, Communal, The Corner, Black Sheep, Cafe, 5-Star BBQ, and CHOM. He is an active early stage and growth investor. Jeff has advised and invested in several successful operating companies such as Pura Fragrances, Divvy Pay, Breeze Airways, WEM, which is an oil company, Gab Wireless, ClickLease, Actify, and Sisu. He's highly sought out by business professionals for his ability to optimize career paths and other business ventures. I speak with him not as much as I should, and I probably take more time than I should from him, but I look up to him in many ways, and I get asked quite frequently, hey, where do I start investing? How can I start making money on my money? And I feel like, Jeff knocking doors, going from a Walmart general manager to knocking doors to now being where he's at, I think this is the perfect guest. So the time is yours, Poppy.
Okay, no, I appreciate the intro. Can you hear me okay before I keep going?
Yeah, solid.
Okay, fantastic. So thanks for the invite. Much love. I appreciate the friendship wholeheartedly. And let's go ahead and dig in. So Austin and I chatted last night, kind of setting the table for what we want to go over today. And I think we start with some guiding principles that'll help all of us on this call understand what investing is, and so that we can scout out good investments and do what's best for us and what our needs are for our specific portfolios. So I want to start off with the power of compounding interest. Beautiful quote, as you see on the screen, that it's the eighth wonder of the world. And we can't underestimate the power of compounding interest. We have to put it on our side. And at a point in our lives, we need to make the flip the switch where we have our money working harder for us than we are working for the money. And I'll dig into that. So this is the power of compounding interest. This slide shows a game of golf. So if we bet, let's hit the next one. If we bet 20 cents or 10 cents a hole, you can see on hole number one, it's obviously 10 cents, hole number 2, 20, 40. And all of a sudden on hole 18, you're betting 13,000 bucks, and it keeps compounding from there. So take a screenshot of that and just understand the power of what 10 cents can do on hole 1, and it doubles in time. And then hole 18, once again, you're at 13,000 bucks. So here's the best definition for compounding interest. Okay. And this might seem basic, but business is basic. And we as human beings overcomplicate the basics, right? We want to make things more complicated, more sophisticated than they should. But essentially it's this. It's just a method that we use to calculate interest paid on both the principal and on the accrued interest. So in other words, compound interest is interest on top of interest. What I often see happen is we take our principal, leave it in there, but then we utilize the interest for personal, gain or to buy liabilities. But if we really truly want to leverage the power of compounding interest, we allow the interest to compound on the interest. That way it multiplies in a really exponential fashion. And we'll dig into that more. So we're just setting the table here. So the next slide, I love this quote. It's very simple. And a lot of the folks on this call generate a lot of income. And we get tempted to start buying cars, watches, gold chains, a whole bunch of different things, which is fine. But just because you can, it doesn't mean that you should. Okay. If you're in your 20s, if you're in your early 30s, the power that you have to compound interest at that young age is incredible. And I didn't realize the power of compounding interest, like the true sheer power, till I was 31. I learned it a little bit later than you guys are going to learn it now. So you have this competitive advantage over me. But if you can get addicted to investing, and instead of owning Rolexes and Mercedes, and you get addicted to LLCs and S corps and to multifamily units, that's the true flex. Once again, just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. Sometimes we want to flex that we're making great money and we have all these things, but liabilities stay in the lane of liabilities and they don't grow. Sure, it can be classified as a tool of production. If you want to be a great recruiter, you can justify the notion that your car is a tool of production, that it allows conversations to happen so that you can grow your recruiting business. Or it's a way that you can have self-fulfillment, meaning, hey, I'm successful and I have this car, and this is something that helps reflect where I stand today in my business ventures. Fine, as long as you decide on a ratio. And Austin, we were talking about this last night. There's no one exact ratio, right? So what I would do if I was you guys is I would choose what percentage of my income I'm going to set aside to always invest. I don't care if it's 80-20. I don't care if it's 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. Figure it out. There's no one static correct answer. The answer needs to be your answer, your specific answer. But you need to decide now how much of your income you want to set aside for sheer investing, and stay true to that. If you don't set aside money to invest now, you're going to wake up one day when you're 40, 50 and wish you would have done what we're counseling you to do today. Okay. And the next slide shows that life is just a dance for what we desire most and what we fear most. Quite often, the questions that I get asked is, well, how do I mitigate risk? How do I take risk near to zero as much as possible? And we fear the risk of investing more than we value the opportunity to receive a gain. Okay. And in investing, rule number one is don't lose money. Rule number two is follow rule number one. We don't lose money in investing. If you're set out to invest to lose money, that's called gambling. We don't gamble. We hedge our bets. We look at investments that make sense. We look for tangible assets. We look for assets that provide cash flow. We look at the operating team. There's a lot of things that we can do. And Austin, you and I can go over questions on how to figure that piece out. But once again, life is a dance of what you desire most and what you fear most. We have to take fear out of it. The brain will always look for what's wrong. Okay. And investing, you have to get past what the brain can see that would be wrong and go find what's good and put the investment on your side. And once again, we have to have these dollars working hard for us. I want George Washington working 24 hours a day, 365 for me. Alexander Hamilton, same thing. Thomas Jefferson, same thing. Those are my best employees. When I'm asleep, I want them working. They're working for me. I don't work for them. Okay. And then let's talk about measurement. You can't measure or you can't manage what you don't measure. So you have to have really good optics. In business, it's all about optics. So at some point, you're going to invest in company A, company B, company C, and all of a sudden you have 20 companies that you're invested in. You have to have a really good mechanism where you can see where your investments are so you can track everything. Tax-wise, depreciation-wise, appreciation-wise, knowing when to have liquidity so you can get into other investments, so forth and so on. And then let's pause there, Austin, and let's get into any questions that you might have up to this point, and then we'll start getting into how to create value so that via this job, we can create a lot of capital to then go and invest.
Awesome. So you kind of hit on one of the questions I got asked. People are asking, for guidance on that percentage. you said and set aside a percentage. If you were a first year rep or a guy that's making 50 to 100 grand a year, what would you say that percentage should be? And I know it's different per investor, but I think a lot of guys just want to kind of be told, right? So how can
you need to invest so much that it hurts. I want you to be left with nothing. I want you to empty out that bank account as much as you can, because money sitting in your account will erode. A dollar today is worth less than it was yesterday. We all know that. Inflation hitting what it's hitting today, and the CPI coming in at close to 8%. Our dollars today are going to be worth less than they were the day prior. So we need to get our dollars working for us into interest-bearing assets that will multiply more dollars. Okay, so I would just figure out something that makes you very uncomfortable, and what it'll do psychologically, it'll cause you to produce more on the doors. So I tell my kids, I want you emptying out that account as much as you can every single time you get a paycheck. 90-10, keep 10% so you can live on it, and invest 90%. Obviously you need to account for taxes and everything else, so bifurcate that, but you need to invest till it hurts. I want you to feel a little bit frantic that your account is empty, because you have your dollars deployed in really good investments. Okay, and the best investments to start off with are real estate investments. I'll give you guys an example of why real estate is so key. Is number one, you can indemnify your asset, meaning if you have a natural disaster, you have fire, anything happens, you can have insurance against that asset and it gets rebuilt. You can indemnify it. It has depreciation benefits, so it has really good, tax advantages. It has cash flow, and by the way, write this down: cash flow is the holy grail of business. Okay, cash isn't king; cash flow is king. Cash can literally be defined as trash. Cash flow is king. You need to get your cash flowing. You need to turn that faucet on. Okay. The other cool thing about real estate is you can borrow max dollars against that asset. So if you look at Chase Bank or any other bank, they're not going to give me a loan to buy their stock. Okay. But these banks will give me a loan to go purchase real estate. You understand? So real estate, and the reason why it's called real estate, it's real. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can lick it, you can smell it, it's there. And real estate, it's here today, and more than likely it's going to be here 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. Some of these blue chip stocks that we buy, they may not be around in 5 years, 10 years. Where's Sears? Where's Blockbuster? Where's Kmart? We get it, but real estate remains. Okay. So I would definitely start in real estate, leverage that asset. It's really difficult to screw up real estate. You can start one door at a time, then go do 2 doors, then go 4 doors. And in real estate, it's all about door count. And another thing that I would do is if you're buying 1 door at a time, buy near schools and buy near hospitals in good areas. That real estate will always be well sought after. And obviously look for real estate that is in good prime areas where there's a lot of jobs. Okay, does that answer that question?
Yep. You got time for one more on that? You kind of covered it on mitigating risk. So the question was how to manage risk and what to look at /for to help make a decision to pull a trigger on an investment quickly rather than paralysis by analysis.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand the question. So ask me it again. Sorry.
So it's kind of 2 questions, but how do you manage or mitigate risk? And then what specific things do you look for to pull a trigger on an investment?
Okay. It depends on the asset class, right? So on real estate, I look for job growth. I look for hospitals. I look for schools. I look for the surrounding area. I look to see if in real estate, you make the money upon purchase. Okay. So I never buy on potential appreciation. Appreciation for me is just a bonus. And then there's two main ways to buy real estate. You can buy real estate due to economical distress, meaning there's something happening in the area so you can get a good deal, or there's emotional distress, meaning the people selling the real estate had a divorce, they had a passing away in the family. The person managing the property no longer wants to manage the property. And at that given point in time, the people selling that piece of real estate are very highly incentivized to dispose of that real estate. So at that given point in time, you're probably going to get a better deal. So just be attentive to that. Now, when I'm buying a private equity deal or a venture capital deal, I look at the TAM, I look at the total addressable market, I look at the service addressable market. I look at what kind of problem this certain company is solving. And if they actually have the team to be able to solve that problem. So about 90% of my DD, my due diligence, when I'm buying a company, or I'm putting money in a company, it's on the operator. Write this thing down. The chokehold of a business is a psychology of the business leader/leaders. The chokehold of a business is a psychology of the business leaders, okay? You can have a phenomenal product, you can have a phenomenal service, but if the leadership can't carry the model forward, you don't really have a company that's going to be successful, okay? You guys sell solar. Solar is a commoditized business. A lot of people can get panels. A lot of people can get trucks. A lot of people can put computers in the office and do work, computer work. The differentiating factor for United, it's not your computers, it's not your special panels, it's not your trucks, it's the leadership of the team. It's the culture. It's the almost intangibles, right? So I look at, can the CEO operate? Can the CEO build? Does the CEO have the energy, foresight, aptitude, emotional intelligence, and IQ, the whole nine? And then do we have a diverse enough team so that we can hit a really big market segment? And do they understand, you know, what it is they need to get done year one, year two, year three, so forth and so on. And then I look for liquidity. Write this down. You get value via liquidity, okay? Because I can have all these assets, but if I don't have liquidity, I'm never getting the cash out of those companies. So you get value via liquidity. There's a book I recommend. It's called Am I Being Too Subtle by Sam Zell. Taken a ton of companies public, and he has a formula where he will buy a company, and in X amount of years, 5-7 years, he always takes it public and gets liquidity. Another thing I'll mention, profit is theory, cash flow is king. You can have a very profitable company and go under because you don't have cash. Because in companies, profit is just theory. It's your balance of AP, accounts payable, accounts receivable. You can have all these accounts payable that if they hit your books, you're in the money, you're profitable. But if you don't get those in operationally, then you don't have that cash. You can't go to the grocery store and say, hey, I don't have any cash on me, but I have a company that's very profitable. Can I check out these groceries? You guys understand? So profit is theory, cash flow is king. Okay, hopefully this is all making sense, but we got time for more questions.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up. I got a few more, but let's get through the next few slides. We changed it to this one here. And then I've got a couple of requests for questions. So we'll do like 3 questions at the end.
Okay, so don't mistake movement for achievement. Some of us are in the business of busyness and not the business of business. So what we need to do at United is we need to create a ton of value so that the dollars follow that value that's being created. Dollars follow value, not the other way around. So sometimes we like the busy work and we're doing spreadsheets and this and that and the other, but nothing really matters until we sell and install an account and then cash is transferred. So always focus on creating more value. You know, we're in the business of creating value for our technicians so they can get job, obviously for the end consumer so they can save money on their electric bill and all of that, but they can stop polluting the planet with the archaic form of consuming energy. We create value by recruiting and bringing more people on board so they can be a part of this amazing platform. So focus on value creation. Never ask yourself, how can I make more money? That's limited. If you're chasing the money, that's all that's there. So focus and ask yourself, how can I create more value? how can I create more value? What can I do to make United better? What can I do to make this a more beautiful and elegant experience for my recruits? What can I do to make this a better, more elegant experience for my customers? What can I do to create so much value that I'm getting referrals and leads left and right? So that's why I put on there, don't mistake movement for achievement. Focus on value creation. The more value you create, the more dollars will follow you. And you will get to a point where you're creating so much value that you will not be able to stop the dollars. They'll just flow so, so well and so powerfully that you're like, stop, because you're creating so much value in the marketplace. I promise you that. And that's a principle that I learned in my early 30s is, how can I create more value? How can I create more value? How can I create more value? Okay. And then we mentioned this before. If you want to win, you must keep score. You can't score without a goal. So you need to measure all this stuff. What accountants do, like when I look at an accountant, when I look at a CFO, I don't really care about them inputting numbers and giving me a report. I want to know what story they're seeing with the numbers that they're being presented with. It's not about the number. It's like, what are we going to do about these numbers? So when you guys are investing and when you guys are putting your portfolios together and you're chasing separate asset classes, I want you to really measure what's going on. If you don't measure it, and if you don't know when to sell, when to hold, or what your strategy is, it will end up eroding. Another thing too is, I think it's on the next slide. It's the one regarding emotions. Yeah, so business, it's an intellectual sport. It doesn't respond well to emotions. So what traditionally happens, I'll ask you, Austin, what traditionally happens when the market starts dipping?
Sell.
People end up selling. And I mean, I think in principle, we understand that I probably shouldn't sell, but it's dipping. We freak out. We have loss aversion, so we sell. Terrible strategy. Terrible. You can't let your emotions into it. You almost, so what I do on a lot of my accounts is the way I measure them is I have them on a separate mechanism where I don't see them for a while, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. And that's how I measure them. And I measure them every 3 weeks. Because if I'm measuring them on a daily, I might be tempted psychologically, emotionally to sell. So it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So just remember that, okay? Okay, what other questions do we have?
Is there one more slide, Ethan?
I think we have 3 more.
Okay. So question that I get, this is actually comes from our CSO Morgan, and he's asking it for sales reps, but generally so those deals we named, WEM, Breeze Airways, Sisu, I've personally participated in like 80% of the stuff you've brought to me, but for someone that's new to this, what is kind of the general minimum investment that someone needs to be looking at? And why and is accreditation so necessary from your end, taking people's money? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so being accredited is more than anything a way in which the government can vet out and verify that people making investment decisions are sophisticated enough, they have enough net worth where they can make investments on their own. That's what it means. So I have to follow those fiduciaries as a provider of investment tools before I take people's money. Minimum investment, it depends. If it's venture capital, $10,000 maybe, because venture, I mean, the way venture works is there are no singles, doubles, or triples. It's either home run or you strike out. And quite often in venture, 3 out of every 10 are home runs and the rest are strikeouts. So on those, you put in less money. Okay. Now in private equity, the number might be, let's say it's 100 grand, because private equity is usually growth capital. There's already a team assembled. They have revenue. They're just looking for growth capital. It's not as early stage as venture. Now with venture, you're getting a massive multiple if it hits. It's Uber pre-revenue. It's Airbnb pre-revenue. It's Facebook pre-revenue. When Facebook was doing their Series B, C, D, et cetera, that's private equity. So the multiples you're going to get on your cash are not going to be as high as when you invest at early stage. So it depends on the investment vehicle and the timing of said investment. But there's no one exact number. I'll say this too, is business, it's not a science. It's a liberal art. So there's no one specific way of doing things. I have friends that only invest in real estate. I have friends that only do food and beverage. I have friends that love venture. I have friends that only do private equity. But I like having a mixed bag. I enjoy the journey of understanding VC, understanding private equity, understanding food and beverage. And I've been able to invest in some really cool vehicles within all those different asset classes. But there's no one set minimum. But my guiding principles, I do way less on venture. I do pretty medium on private equity, and I go pretty hard, pretty big on real estate. And real estate, for me, it's a get rich slow game. I think cryptocurrency, the advent of it, has caused a lot of people to think differently about investing. And I mean, the ebbs and flows of crypto have kind of brought everybody kind of back to earth. But I think once it hits, it will go up again, like exponentially. I think it starts screwing with people's minds. But real estate will always, for me, be the basis of investing, because it will always be there. It will always remain. It's depreciation, appreciation, cash flow, indemnification, and permanency. It'll always be there. There will always be a need for real estate, and not all real estate. So there's commercial, there's flex warehouse, there's multifamily, there's storage. Understand which asset class, which type of real estate you want to get into. Multifamily, I do a lot of trailer parks. Those, in my opinion, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the number one shelter. You know, if you're at the entry point of people getting into homes, I think that asset class is one of the most beautiful asset classes out there. There will always be a massive need for that. And we need to be careful with. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and you say that because it's the affordable housing, right?
It's affordable. There's a massive affordable housing crisis. There's always been an affordable housing issue. Today it's a crisis. So I got into this asset class a few years ago, and it's crazy how much of a need there is for affordable housing in this country. So, and again, in my estimation, if you can get into that entry level, mid-range level and not go way up into the luxury stuff, you will always be very, very, very well protected. Very well protected.
Awesome. You answered like 4 of the 5 questions that we had in that one question. So want to go to the next one?
Another thing that I must say is, quite often when I get on these calls, people are like, give me exactly what I need to do. Write this down. There's no such thing as a good investment, only good investors. Because I can buy an asset or get into a real estate deal today, and you guys get on the deal today. And then I will watch that deal and know when to get out of the deal, when to sell, when to dispose, or when to hold. So please, the number one investment we need to make is in ourselves. We can't be lazy about investing. And I get it. We're out there, we're knocking doors, we're getting accounts. That's your number one job. But I need you guys to read, to study, to watch YouTube videos from people that have done amazing things. There's a lot of nuts out there, by the way. You know, Mark Twain said, an expert is an ordinary fellow from another town. Be careful who we're taking advice from. Go to people that have actually done cool things, not just coaches that decide to be a coach and don't really have anything to back them up with, portfolio-wise or investment-wise. But an investment in our own education pays our highest dividends. So please educate yourselves, read good books, watch good YouTubes, do things like this, like we're doing today. Let's make sure that we're spending the accurate amount of time in investing in knowledge. The most important piece of real estate is this right here. It's in between our 2 ears. Invest in your education. And with that education, when you see a deal, you'll be able to make good decisions. And then create groups. You guys should do masterminds. And Austin, I know you do this, but bring in cool people that have done different things in different asset classes. And your guys will start getting really cool ideas of, oh, this investment works. Oh, we were counseled by this other guy, we shouldn't do this, or we should look at this as a risk, or we should look at this as a really good potential. Sorry, I'm getting.
You're good. So instead of going through like the last 2 slides, Poppy, I think let's open it to questions, and then I'll kind of finish with some questions on some of your current stuff you're working on. So let's do 3 questions. I know people have raised their hand. They post in the chat. Just unmute yourself. Chris Pena, I think you had one. Alex Shrout, if you're still on, you had one.
Sorry, I'm back.
Did you hear me? Sorry.
No,
Okay,
my,
so all good. I
Go
just
ahead.
kind of said, let's just open it to 3 questions, and then I'll kind of finish with the last question of, what projects you're in right now and how someone can get involved.
Sure.
So, three questions. Alex, it looks like you're ready,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Just here, can you put yourself on mute, Wade? So my first question is kind of a question that I'm looking at something right now because I've never bought real estate before. So I guess, Jeff, the question that I have is, what's the best practice as far as acquiring real estate and getting your first deal? For example, I live in Houston in Memorial River Oaks area, and there's like a townhome condo that's right next to mine that's kind of abandoned. Really nice uppity area. Lady's husband died. He was a real estate agent, and he obviously, took care of all that stuff when he was alive, but one of their properties burnt down. So it seems like she's kind of let that go. I got, what's the best way to go about getting your first deal, in a situation like that? Because it's literally like a perfect scenario. Is it best to kind of go knock their door? Because send them a letter, what's kind of the best practice as far as, real estate's obviously the best cash flowing thing you can do, but what's the applicable strategy to actually going about taking action on something like that?
Okay, so I probably don't have a lot of, because that's a very specific question. Number one, yeah. Congrats on chasing your first real estate deal. I applaud you. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
32.
Okay, awesome. It's never too late to start, but congratulations. And just to not take time away from the other questions, that's a very specific question. I need to know more. I think my overall advice, and Austin, we were talking about this last night. It's in real estate, it's all about door count. So Austin asked me, hey, should guys start with a 4-plex, 6-plex? Sure. This deal that you're talking about might be a little bit more complicated to do your first deal with. I'd have to study it more. But my advice to my son, who's 21 years old, is, buy your first home and house hack it. Live at the top, rent out the basement. I want you to get used to filling out a REPSI, a real estate purchase agreement, or a real estate purchase contract. I want you to, learn how to pay a mortgage. I want you to learn how to protect your credit. I want you to learn how to leverage. I want you to understand interest rates. I want you to understand how to collect rent. I want you to understand, what you need to do as a landlord and what it takes and how to get good tenants in there. So my overall advice is simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. I would start simple. And then if you can do one door, you can do 2. If you can do 2, you can do 4. If you can do 4, you can do 8, and then compound it. But I can take that question offline and help you, because your question is going to take more time and I'm going to need to know more.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Let's go to another one. Chris Pena, are you still on? And did you have a question?
Yes, I'm here.
What up?
What up? So thanks, Jeff, for being an inspiration for all of us. My question is, I've started real estate this year, and I'm about to get my 3rd property to fix and flip. But I would like to know how to get and keep those houses. I don't want to get rid of, but I want the cash, because I'm dead broke right now. I'm like $100, but I want the money. I need the money, but I want to keep the house. How can I do that?
Okay, so I have to, let me give you some overall principles. You and I need to get more specific. I need to understand your situation, but I love what you brought up. I personally don't like the fix and flip model. Okay. Do you know why? No. Why would you? Because I just bought an asset. I like keeping my assets. I like taking the depreciation. I like taking depreciation. And if I'm fixing and flipping, then I got to go find another deal anyway and do a 1031 exchange. So if I went through the trouble of finding that asset, I'm going to make that asset amazing, and I'm going to sit on that cash flow. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to hold. So I own 50,000 homes throughout the US. I'm holding all those suckers. It's an evergreen strategy for me, because I want that cash flow every single month. I want to go to bed at night and know that people are going to be paying me rent, and then I'm going to be able to provide that value and that service to them. The reason I do food and beverage and everything is I hold all these restaurants. I'm here, I'm selling pizzas right now. I'm selling burgers right now. I'm collecting rents right now. So I like the buy and hold strategy, so that you can truly benefit from what real estate can provide you. The fix and flip, it's cool, but it's quick cash here, quick cash there. You know, you want to buy and you want to hold these assets. For instance, if you bought a piece of property in Manhattan 30 years ago and you sold it, you would be so upset. So when you're buying real estate in a good area, you hold that sucker forever. Okay. And we can get into more specifics on that, but congrats on buying some properties, congrats on getting in real estate, but we can talk offline on how to hold those assets and how to get some more cash into your account so you have that certainty.
Well,
we need cash in our account so that we can have certainty, guys. That's why you have cash, but you also want to put as much cash to work so you have certainty in your investments. Listen, you want to live like a pauper so one day you can live like a king, okay, or queen. So we got to get our money working for us instead of what they teach us in school. Oh, work hard and you'll get a paycheck. You know, work really hard and one day you might be able to retire. No, that doesn't work. Like, we're not designed to live that way. You know, the true wealth is experiences, mobility, and time to be able to do what you want with whom you want as often as you want, right? And money shouldn't be a reason why we do or do not do things. Money is just a tool of production. And money is abundant. It's everywhere around us. And money is energy. Money is just a transfer of energy from us into the universe and creating value. Money is a representation of energy. Sales is a representation of energy. All that sales is a transfer of confidence from me to the prospect. They're buying my confidence. They're buying that experience. Money is energy. If we're worried and we live in fear, doubt, and worry, that's gonna represent our bank account. That's gonna represent the amount of money sent our way. Money is energy, certainty, our giving, our value. The secret of life is giving. So the more we give, the more we receive. That's just how it works, right? So,
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. It looks like eight. Okay. Oh wait, I don't know who that is, but ask away.
Oh, I think it might be my question. So I'm a little interested in the real estate market. First of all, thanks for sharing all that insights. But I was just curious if you have any like kind of targets for emerging real estate markets you're like looking to get into, any specific areas across the country or the world, I guess.
Yeah. So I do projects US, and then in Canada, I do have some restaurants in Indonesia, but I try to stay US based. And then when you're first getting into real estate, proximity is power. So if my first real estate deal, I live in Utah, if my first deal in real estate is Texas, man, I am putting so much trust, faith in the property management company. I would suggest, as we're learning and we're buying, have proximity. So you can drive to the property. You can see what's going on with the property. You can check the yard. You can check the activity. And if you need to go collect the check because your property management company didn't work out, then you go collect that check. And then after you get that experience and that know-how, then you can expand. I'm in like 30 states now, but I started here, right? My first real estate deal was my own primary residence. And then I house hacked it. I lived in it, and then I upgraded and I rented that one out. And then I lived in the one I upgraded for a while, and then I rented that one out, and I hold those assets. I mean, and the real estate market here in Utah has gone bonkers, and thank goodness I was able to hold on to those assets. But that's how I would probably start is, buy a home, house hack it, live in it, rent out the basement, or live in it for a year, and then you can go get an upgrade or whatever, and then rent that one out, and just get through the mechanics of owning and collecting on real estate. Sure. But emerging markets, not to get political, but you probably want to go to some of the states that are very economically friendly, that have good economic policy. So you guys can fill in the blanks there. You probably don't want to go to states that have rent control. You don't want to have states that are going to tax the hell out of you. You want to go to states that are business friendly and where they're emerging markets. You always want to go to emerging markets. Okay.
So thank you for everyone's time. We'll kind of finish up. Poppy, what projects are you in now? And if you have 51 dudes that have money burning a hole in their pocket, how could they see some of the stuff you're doing, get more involved, maybe just at least seeing a deal, and maybe they participate, maybe they don't, but getting involved in something you're doing.
Yeah. So there's always projects, and listen, the deal of a lifetime comes around once a week, guys. So never ever feel pressure to get into a deal. That's not good. When you feel confident about the deal, then you go for the deal. There's plenty of deals. Your money will find deals, and deals always find money. Always think abundantly. Life is not a limited piece of pie. Life is abundant, but you have to choose to live abundantly. And there's a lot of clickbait out there. You turn on the news and it's all the world is falling apart. The human race is a mess. Everything is terrible. It's not true. This is the best time to be alive. Everything is fantastic right now. Sure, do bad things happen? Yes, but that's been since the beginning of time. But just beware of all the clickbait, and beware of, you need to invest now and this is the only time and whatever. No, just the twin killers of success are impatience and greed. Okay, don't be greedy on your deals, and be patient. Don't become impatient. Don't get emotional on it. So I'll always have deals, Austin. There's always deal flow, and I'm always chasing deal flow. So I have some food and beverage deals right now, and we can get into specifics on a different call. People want to participate in that call. I don't want to do that here. And then I do have a fund where people can invest in real estate. The caveat to that, though, is the minimum subscription amount for that real estate deal. It's a big fund. It's like a $500 million fund. It's $1 million minimum. So that's a heftier deal. So it's not going to work out for people that are just starting. But I can get on a call for both of those. And then there's guys that have been in the industry, like a Brody Fawcett. I'll put a plug in for him, where he does a lot of cool deals that are smaller size deals that guys can get started with. And I think it'd be cool for you guys to get him on a call and do things, with his group. But there's always deals. And Austin, I'll show you a few deals. And if you want to do a call with your folks and they want to put 50 grand in some of these deals, 100 grand, then more power to them. I can present that.
Hey, well, I appreciate
again, I can show what it is that I'm doing, and I can express my reasons why, and then you guys can make your decision.
Yeah, no, I think we'll have some interest after this call and some of that stuff, especially with summer months coming and big paychecks coming in, right? So,
but again, let's end the call with, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Get addicted to investing. Don't get addicted to consuming. Assets grow and they compound. Liabilities go down in value. So again, like if you buy a home and you live in it, that's more of a liability than an asset, because it takes money out of your pocket every single month and doesn't fill your pocket back up. Sure, it's a tool of production. It gives you shelter. It gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you meaning. It gives you fulfillment. But on your balance sheet, it should be listed, in my opinion, more as a liability than an asset. Sure, you get equity, it's worth more, but I want us to go chase assets that pay us. And there's some that have deferred income. So the Breeze Airways, the Gab Wireless, all that stuff's deferred. I won't see any of that cash until there's some sort of sale, either by another private equity firm or by them going public or whatever. Okay, but in real estate, you can get cash flow pretty quickly. You can get NOI, net operating income, pretty quickly. So when you're investing, you say to yourself, I need X amount of assets that will pay me monthly so that I can cover my living costs via these assets, and I will keep feeding these beasts so that they don't starve. If you guys have ever read The Richest Man in Babylon, good book, but I completely disagree with one of his notions. He says, pay yourself first. No, pay your business first. Pay your assets first, because that's the beast you need to feed. If you don't feed that beast is going to starve. You need a really big beast, and one day, I promise you, start now. I promise you, one day you'll look back and be like, holy cow, I have all these cool things happening. I am so glad I didn't sell them. I didn't dispose of them, and I kept feeding those investments. So just understand, you can buy yield via real estate, food and beverage, oil and gas, and then you can buy deferred income through private equity deals, private company, growth capital, so forth and so on. So there's just different strategies and ways in which you can make money. But invest, and become addicted to investing. Make it cool to invest. It should be cooler to invest than pulling up in a really cool car. Because that cool car, once again, it's not going to put cash cash in your pocket through it. You have to work by pulling up and recruiting, and people like, oh wow, this person's successful, they must know something, I'm gonna join the company, and you can monetize that way. But just remember, these assets have value in and of themselves to create wealth for you.
Appreciate it. Love you, brother. Thanks for being on.
Okay, thanks, much love. You guys tear it up.